Hey everyone, I am Ms. Hu, your physics teacher. In this video, we are going to go through the states of matter. This is just a summary of the three states of matter in terms of their properties, illustrations, as well as the changes of state. This video lesson is designed for the SPM and IGCSE Physics students, so which means that by this point, you should already know something about those three states of matter, and this is merely a summary or an overview of the states of matter. Let's just get straight to it. First of all, what is matter? So, matter is defined as everything that occupies space and has mass. You only need to learn about the three states of matter. Are there more? Well, as we all know, there are actually some suggestions that there are more states of matter than these three, but for this level, you only need to focus on solid, liquid, and gas. Let's go through solids first. So as you already know, solids have a fixed volume, fixed shape, and they cannot flow. The properties of these solids can be easily explained by understanding the particle arrangement. This is a diagram that shows how the particle arrangement of a typical solid would be like. You can see from this diagram here, the particles are very close together. The particles also vibrate around a fixed point. Because of their closeness, they've got very strong intermolecular bonds and very strong forces of attraction between particles. So this explains why solids tend to keep their shape. And because they are so close together, they can't separate easily, which is why the volume is also fixed. Because the volume and shape are fixed, that's why solids cannot flow. Next, let's look at a liquid. Liquids also have a fixed volume. However, the shape is not fixed. The shape of liquids follow the container. And because the shape follows the container, that's why they can flow. These properties can also be explained based on the particle arrangement of liquids. So in the case of liquids, the particles are close together, but not as close as solids. You'll find that the intermolecular bonds are still relatively strong, but they are considerably weaker compared to solids. So the relatively strong intermolecular bonds explain why liquids have a fixed volume. But they're weaker, which means that the particles can't stay together. They're close, but they can still kind of slide around one another. That's why the shape is not fixed, and that's why liquids can flow. Now, let's look at gases. Gases do not have a fixed volume and do not have a fixed shape. You'll find that for gases, the volume and shape follow the container. Because of these, that's why gases can flow. Just like for solids and liquids, these properties can also be explained based on their particle arrangement. For gases, the particles are very far apart and they tend to randomly bounce around in a container. Because they're so far apart, they have very weak intermolecular forces. Based on the separation of the particles, the gases do not have a fixed shape. And because the gas particles can kind of bounce around, that's why they also don't have a fixed volume. Now that we know the main properties of solids, liquids, and gases, let's have a quick overview of the properties of all three states of matter. So these are the properties of solids, liquids, and gases. You would need to know these properties for your examinations. I'm not going to read these all out, you can read them for yourself, but yes, you need to know the shape, volume, arrangement of particles, density, the bonds, forces between particles, as well as a particle separation. Just going to pause here so that you can take a quick look. In addition to knowing these properties, you also need to know how to do a sketch or a rough illustration of the three states of matter. So for solids, you must draw all the particles really close to one another in a fixed shape. Liquid particles are still close to one another, but there's a bigger gap between them compared to solids, and they don't have a fixed shape. So you'll find that the liquid particles are still scattered randomly, but a little bit further than solids and much closer compared to gases. For the gas particles, on the other hand, you have to draw the particles very far away from each other in random positions. To finish up this lesson, let's go through the changes of the states of matter. So here we have solids, liquids, and gases, and we're taking water as our example of the material being observed. By now, you should already know this, so this is just revision for you. Let's recall. When changing from solid to liquid, the process is known as melting. And remember that in this melting process, heat is being absorbed. When liquid is changing into solid, it's known as freezing. And in the freezing process, heat is being released. When liquid changes to become gas, there are actually two different processes. One is boiling and one is evaporation. Yes, you do need to know how to describe the differences between these two processes, and that will be covered in another video. This process also involves the absorption of heat. When gas changes to liquid, the process is known as condensation, and heat is being released during this process. For the process between solid and gases, you don't really need to know the names of the processes if you're taking IGCSE Physics, but it's still good to know in general anyway. When a solid is becoming a gas, the process is known as sublimation, and it involves the absorption of heat. Whereas when gas changes to become solid, it is known as deposition, and this process involves the release of heat. We normally don't learn about the changes of state between solid and gases because not all materials are able to sublime or deposit. Most materials only go through the process from solid to liquid to gas or from gas to liquid to solid. Only a few materials are able to change between solid and gases easily. If you take chemistry, you would be learning about those few materials. In physics, we're just going to be learning about the changes of states of matter in terms of heat absorption and release. To finish up, here's a video to show you for fun about the changes in the states. Thank you to Canva for this free video. So if you found this video to be educational, please click like. And of course, subscribe for more lessons, solutions, and exam strategies from your physics teacher, Miss Ho. To get access to the updated video lessons as well as updated syllabi of SPM and IGCSE Physics, please check out my website at physicsrocks.com. Happy studying!